When trust is shattered in a single moment, the fallout can change lives forever. In the world of high-tech power and quiet loyalty, one impulsive decision sets off a chain of consequences that neither loyalty, wealth, nor brilliance can undo. But sometimes the truth doesn't stay buried, and redemption begins where no one expects it. Hello family, welcome to Folktales by Imzi. Please subscribe and like, it means the world to us. Also share this video to your friends and loved ones and turn on post notifications so you don't miss future videos from us. Thank you as you do so. Sit back and relax as we dive into the story. The rain tapped lightly against the high arched windows of the Carter estate, rhythmic and calm, a sharp contrast to the storm brewing inside. Malik Carter stepped into his study, loosened his tie, and dropped heavily into the leather chair behind his massive mahogany desk. The flight back from San Francisco had been long, and all he wanted was a quiet night, a whiskey neat, and to review the final prototype plans his team had sent over. But instead, he was staring at chaos. His top-secret design files, codes, schematics, entire presentations were missing. His secure system had been breached, and to make matters worse, the wall safe behind the bookshelf stood ajar, nearly half of its contents gone. Security footage revealed nothing out of place. No broken windows, no forced entry. It had to be someone inside. His jaw clenched. There were only 3 people with consistent access to his private study. Himself, Donovan his CFO, and her. Asha. The name came to him with a bitter taste. She'd been with him 2 years. Quiet. Efficient. Always polite. Never once late or out of place. He'd trusted her. Hell, more than he trusted most people. She knew the alarm codes. She cleaned the study twice a week. She brought him coffee, sometimes with a kind word when he looked like he hadn't slept. And now, apparently, she'd stolen from him. He rose from his chair like a thundercloud and stormed through the house, past the framed art and smart glass panels, until he found her, in the kitchen, quietly humming as she loaded the dishwasher. "Asha," he said, voice low but full of restrained fury. She turned, startled. "Yes, Mr. Carter? Where were you yesterday between 9 and 11 p.m.? Her brow furrowed. "Here. In my room mostly. I finished the laundry, then cleaned the upstairs bath." "Why?" He stepped closer. "You were the last person in my study before I left for San Francisco. I checked the logs. Yes, I cleaned in there, as I always do. But I didn't touch anything. The safe was opened. Files are gone. Cash is missing. And your login credentials were used to access the home server remotely." Her mouth parted, but no words came. She blinked. "What? That's not possible. I don't even know how to access. I trusted you." The words dropped cold and final. "You had the opportunity, and now everything points to you." She took a step back, her hands trembling. "Mr. Carter, please. I didn't do this. I would never." But he was already pulling out his phone, calling security. "You're done here, Asha. Pack your things. You're off the property in 15 minutes. As 2 guards arrived at the door, Asha stared at Malik like she'd been slapped. "You didn't even ask," she whispered, her voice cracking. He didn't respond. He couldn't. His anger left no room for doubt. As she was led away, Asha turned one last time, her eyes filled with pain more than fear. "I hope you find the truth," she said softly. But Malik had already turned away. He thought he had. The rain had stopped, but the air outside the Carter estate felt heavy, thick with the weight of something broken. Asha stood at the edge of the long circular driveway, her small duffel bag clutched in her hands, still trying to make sense of what had just happened. The security guards who escorted her hadn't said a word. They didn't have to. The message was loud and clear. She was nothing now. No job. No reference. No defense. The gate buzzed behind her, shutting with a soft finality. She didn't cry. Not yet. Instead, she walked. Her phone buzzed in her pocket twice. A reminder to refill her brother's prescription. Another message from the hospital about the overdue payment for his last infusion. Tyrell. Asha exhaled, sharp and quick. No matter how bad this got, she couldn't afford to break down. Her brother needed her. She couldn't tell him, not yet, that she'd lost her job, that she'd been fired like a criminal. It was after midnight by the time she reached her friend Nicole's apartment, soaked from the knees down and shivering. Nicole opened the door in a robe, her eyes wide. What happened to you? Asha stood silent for a moment. Then finally, her voice cracked. He thinks I stole from him. Nicole didn't ask who. She already knew. Oh, hell no. She pulled her friend inside. Sit down. Let me get you some tea. Asha collapsed onto the worn sectional, numb. She wasn't angry yet. She wasn't sad either. Not fully. What she felt most was disbelief. That Malik, of all people, hadn't even looked her in the eye when he made up his mind. She had never even touched that damn safe. For 2 years, she'd taken care of his home like it was her own. She knew his routines. She picked up on his silences. She remembered his favorite mug, his late-night pacing, the way he barely looked at people when he was deep in thought. She thought, foolishly, that he saw her as more than just background noise. Apparently not. When Nicole returned, Asha took the tea with both hands, letting the warmth slowly pull her back to reality. So what are you going to do? Nicole asked softly. Asha stared at the steam curling up from the mug. I don't know, she whispered. I really don't. For the first time in years, she had no plan. No income. No backup. Just her name, and now, even that felt stained. But deep inside, behind the fog of confusion and fear, something hardened. She hadn't stolen anything. And she would prove it. Donovan Ellis leaned back in the leather chair of his high-rise corner office, the city lights of Atlanta glittering like diamonds through the floor-to-ceiling glass behind him. He sipped a glass of bourbon, legs crossed, perfectly relaxed. Malik Carter had just handed him the perfect cover on a silver platter. The moment he'd heard that Asha had been fired, Donovan knew his plan was working. A clean exit wound, no blood, no mess. Just a quiet scapegoat, already out the door. He smiled faintly, swirling the amber liquor in his glass. Asha had been smart, too smart for her position, he always thought, but not savvy enough to see this coming. The moment he'd caught wind that Malik had grown distracted, juggling product launches and new partnerships, Donovan had made his move. A few carefully placed scripts in the house's internal network, a login trail using Asha's account, and some old-school manipulation of the physical access logs. The cash from the safe? That was just to make it look petty, something human, emotional. Something Malik would latch onto as personal betrayal. It worked beautifully. He tapped a key on his laptop and watched as encrypted files uploaded silently to a remote drive. Not everything, just enough. The early AI models, the predictive software patent drafts. Valuable enough to sell, but subtle enough to go unnoticed for another few weeks. He was almost out. A knock came at the office door. Come in, he said, quickly minimizing the screen. It was Malik. Donovan stood, greeted him with his usual easy smile. You're burning the midnight oil. Malik looked tired, not just physically, but worn in that quiet, dangerous way. His eyes scanned the room, taking in the untouched desk and the soft jazz playing in the background. Wanted to talk about the breach, Malik said. It's not over. Donovan raised a brow. I thought you already handled that? Thought I did, Malik muttered. But more files went missing. After she left. Donovan's smile didn't falter. That's odd. You think she had someone helping her? Malik didn't answer right away. Just stood there, as if trying to read something behind Donovan's face. Eventually, he shook his head. Not sure yet. But I'll find out. Donovan offered a sympathetic nod. Let me know how I can help. Oh, I will. When Malik left, Donovan exhaled slowly. He would need to accelerate his exit strategy. He turned back to the computer, fingers flying over the keyboard. Soon, this would all be behind him, and no one would ever know. The hum of the server room was a sound Zuri James had grown to love. Not because it was peaceful, though it was, but because it drowned out the noise of the world. The quiet, the blinking lights, the organized chaos of data. It all made sense here. Zuri leaned back in her chair, twisting a pencil between her fingers. She had been going over the security logs from the Carter estate system for hours now. Not because she'd been asked, but because something didn't add up. The breach Malik had reported 2 weeks ago had been cleaned up quickly. Too quickly, she thought. The blame placed squarely on the fired maid. Case closed. But Zuri wasn't satisfied with surface-level answers. That was what made her such a good cybersecurity specialist, and what sometimes annoyed the hell out of her supervisors. She clicked back to the time-stamped logs from the night Asha had been fired. Remote login. Account. Abinett@carterhouse.local. Location, Carter Estate. But the login occurred at 11:42 p.m. That was nearly 3 hours after Asha had been escorted off the property. Zuri narrowed her eyes. She checked the security camera logs. Nothing. But the login triggered an automated backup, meaning the files pulled at that hour had been duplicated and stored. Sloppy. Whoever did this wasn't just a thief. They were arrogant. She sat up straighter, heart beginning to race. Someone was still using Asha's credentials. Not from outside, but inside the system. Either they had physical access or admin-level clearance. Zuri rubbed her temples. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. This was a setup. And Asha? She might be the key to unraveling it all. Zuri leaned back and made a decision. She pulled up the staff records. Found Asha Bennett's last known address, a mailing record from payroll. It was old, but it was something. Zuri didn't know exactly why she cared so much. Maybe it was the way this whole thing smelled wrong. Maybe it was the memory of Asha's quiet professionalism on the few occasions they'd crossed paths. Or maybe it was just the principle of it all. Good people didn't deserve to be ruined because someone smarter thought they could get away with it. She grabbed her bag, shut down her system, and headed for the elevator. It was time to find Asha Bennett. Asha opened the door slowly, expecting to see Nicole with takeout or maybe Tyrell back from the pharmacy. Instead, a woman stood on the porch, young, confident, and unfamiliar. Her pressed blazer and sharp eyes didn't scream threat, but they did scream business. "Asha Bennett?" the woman asked. "Yes," Asha replied cautiously, hands still on the doorframe. "I'm Zuri James. I work for Carter Innovations, Cybersecurity Division." Asha stiffened. "I'm not here on Malik's behalf," Zuri added quickly. "He doesn't know I'm doing this. Can I come in? Just 5 minutes. I think you're being framed." Asha blinked, caught somewhere between disbelief and curiosity. She glanced back toward the living room where Tyrell was napping, then stepped aside. 5 minutes, she said. Zuri walked in, opened her tablet, and pulled up the login data. "Someone accessed the home server using your credentials, after you were fired and already off the property. That alone proves something's off." She swiped again. "But I dug deeper. There's a trail, sloppy, like someone thought they'd be above suspicion once you were out of the picture." Asha stared at the screen. "I don't even know how to use any of this stuff. I cleaned bookshelves and ran laundry." Zuri nodded. "Exactly. That's what makes this so clean. You had access, physical access, which made it easy for someone to build a case around you. But the behavior? The activity? It's not yours." Asha leaned back against the couch, her mind racing. "So, someone used me." "Exactly," Zuri said. "And I think I know who. But I can't prove it, not yet. I need access to the house. To the patterns, the blind spots. You know that place better than anyone. If we work together, we can get the evidence. And clear your name." Asha hesitated. For weeks she'd been living in shame, keeping her head down, trying to rebuild quietly. Now someone was handing her the chance to fight back, but it came with risk. She looked toward Tyrell's room. He deserved more than a sister too scared to stand up for herself. She turned back to Zuri and gave a short nod. "All right, I'm in." Zuri smiled, a flicker of admiration crossing her face. They weren't friends yet, but they had a shared goal now. And that was enough to get started. The plan was simple, precise, risky. Late Friday night, while most of the Carter Innovations staff had left for the weekend, Zuri used her clearance to re-enter the mansion under the guise of performing a quiet follow-up diagnostic. She signed in with the main gate herself, just like she always did. But this time, she wasn't alone. Asha stayed out of sight in the passenger seat of Zuri's car, parked around the back service entrance. It had been months since she'd stepped foot on this property, but everything felt painfully familiar. The scent of lavender from the hedges, the soft glow of pathway lights, the quiet hum of wealth. "Ready?" Zuri asked as she unlocked the back entrance. Asha took a breath, then nodded. Inside, everything looked the same, except now it felt different. Cold. Suspicious. The place she had once cleaned with care now felt like a house full of ghosts. Zuri led them through the side hallway into Malik's private study. She pulled out her tools, connected to the secure network, and began tracing activity. "If I'm right, Donovan will come tonight," she whispered. "There's a pattern to his data drops. Every 2 weeks. Late. He thinks no one's watching." Asha, crouched near the bookshelf, stared at the open wall safe. Empty now. The memory of being accused here, being shamed here, burned in her chest. The hours passed slowly. Midnight approached. Then footsteps. Zuri muted her laptop and motioned for Asha to hide in the corner behind the curtains. From the hallway, a keycard beeped. The door creaked open. Donovan walked in alone. He moved with confidence, heading straight to the hidden drawer beneath the desk. He didn't see Zuri's tiny portable camera wedged between 2 books on the shelf. He didn't see Asha watching from the shadows. He opened his laptop, connected a hard drive, and began syncing files from Malik's cloud-linked archive. Files no one without executive access should have. Click. Copy. Upload. Zuri tapped her phone, activating the recording. Donovan mumbled under his breath. "One more round, then I'm gone." That was all she needed. "Step away from the desk," Zuri said, rising. Donovan spun around. "What the?" And then he saw Asha. His face fell. "You," he breathed. "Me," Asha said, stepping out slowly. "Still here. Still not a thief." Zuri snapped the laptop shut, disconnected the drive, and held it up. "We've got everything. Remote access logs. Timestamps. Footage. Even your charming little monologue." Donovan tried to step forward. Asha blocked the door. "No more framing people who trusted you," she said. "Game's over." An hour later, Malik Carter stood in his office, pale with disbelief as Zuri played back the footage. Donovan had already been taken into custody by private security and would be handed over to federal authorities by morning. When the video ended, Malik sat in silence. His eyes, wide with shame, finally turned to Asha. "I was wrong," he said quietly. Asha nodded once. "You were." The Carter estate looked different in the daylight, less cold, more alive. But for Asha, it still felt like standing in the aftermath of a storm she never asked for. She sat quietly in the sunlit conservatory, hands folded in her lap, waiting. A few minutes later, Malik Carter entered, dressed down in a simple navy sweater and slacks. No tie, no guarded posture, just a man who looked tired and deeply humbled. He stood for a moment uncertain, then sat across from her. "I appreciate you coming," he said. Asha gave a small nod. "Didn't come for your comfort." "I know," he replied. "You shouldn't have had to." The silence stretched. Malik leaned forward, clasping his hands. "There's nothing I can say that will make it right. You trusted me. You worked in my home. I accused you without listening. Without proof. I was angry, I was sloppy, and I let you carry the weight of something you didn't do." He paused, like the words were heavier than he expected. "I'm sorry." Asha looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time since that night. And for a moment, she saw not the powerful billionaire who had humiliated her, but the man beneath, ashamed, shaken, and trying. "I needed to hear that," she said, her voice steady. "But you also need to understand, what you did could have ruined my life." "I do," he said. "That's why I want to make it right, as much as I can. I've already issued a formal statement clearing your name. Every trace of the accusation is being scrubbed from company records. Legal's working on a settlement, but more than money, I want to offer you something else." Asha raised an eyebrow. "I want you to come back," he said. "Not as staff. As part of my internal oversight team. Help me rebuild how this company operates. Help make sure what happened to you doesn't happen to anyone else." Asha blinked, caught off guard. "You want me to work for you again?" "I want to work with you," Malik said quietly. "I trust you. More than most." She sat back, weighing the offer. The irony wasn't lost on her, being asked to clean up the very system that once threw her away. "I'll think about it," she said. "That's all I ask." He stood to leave, then turned back. "And Asha, thank you. For not letting this break you. For fighting back. I respect that more than you know." When he was gone, Asha sat alone for a while, sunlight warming her face. She didn't have an answer yet. But for the first time in a long time, the weight on her chest felt lighter. 6 months later, the quiet buzz of early morning filled the modest but sunlit community center on Auburn Avenue. Asha stood near the entrance, her ID badge clipped to her white scrubs, a fresh stack of pamphlets in hand. The banner behind her read, "The Bennett Initiative, Advocacy, Support, and Second Chances." It wasn't a mansion. It wasn't a boardroom. But it was hers. After Malik's apology and the settlement, she had taken some time, not to rest, but to reclaim. She turned down the job offer, politely but firmly. Working in his system, even with the best intentions, didn't feel right. Instead, she paid off Tyrell's medical debt, enrolled in nursing school, and with what was left, she launched the nonprofit she'd always dreamed of, one that supported workers wrongfully accused or mistreated in private employment settings, the ones no one usually fought for. Now, she was preparing for her first day at Grady Memorial Hospital and had just wrapped up an early morning workshop at her center. A young woman approached, maybe 19, eyes anxious but hopeful. "Ms. Bennett? I was told you help people who've been let go unfairly." Asha smiled. "We do more than that. We help you start again." The woman's shoulders eased. As Asha guided her inside, her phone buzzed. A text from Zuri. "Big win today. Court ruled in your favor. Malik testified, took full responsibility. Let's catch up soon. Proud of you." Asha tucked the phone away, her heart full. Not from vengeance, not even from vindication, but from purpose. She had been thrown out without a second thought. Branded, judged, forgotten. But she never let it define her. She rose not because someone gave her power, but because she remembered her own. And now, she was helping others do the same. Not broken. Not bitter. Better.